I guess I'm first. Hello, everyone. So, on multiple occasions, I've been told of the various professions I need to pursue due to my natural gift at public speaking. People say, "You have such a knack for addressing crowds," and "You just seem so comfortable up on stage." Ironically, words cannot describe how badly I wanted to get up on this podium to speak to y'all again. To exercise that gift one more time. I surprised myself with that internal pick me I had every single time the sponsors asked who wanted to speak. It also wasn't until I finally said out loud that this was my last mission trip that it sunk in for me. My last mission trip. My last message to give to y'all as a high schooler. My last time traveling with these guys, at least as a youth. And boy, oh boy, was this a trip to leave off on. When our nightly devotional asked us to make a movie based on the trip, our little snippets consisted of being forced out of the glamorous, carpeted youth group room and into the tiled, blindingly white gym. We joked about the state of the showers, nasty tiles and all, about all of the random odd jobs we had to do, and even added a bit about the moldy food we had to sift through to find that one banana we could give to someone. Some of the highlights might even include the infamous Pickle Club, hail the Pickle Lord, and of course Art Club. Each of them were little get-togethers we had to share laughter and drawings and just have some good times. At one point, and you guys saw it, we strung together several rolly carts to make Choo Choo. If I were to make a movie about us, it, for one, probably wouldn't have even focused on us. It would have focused on all of the amazing people we met on this trip. Each person brought to my attention the different ways we can serve God and help our neighbors. People like Richard, who, even after a battle with cancer left him homeless, was still able to smile wide and taught me the value of listening to others. My movie would be about Robert and Mark, two mentally challenged men who called every single person their brothers and sisters in Christ. I'd include the countless volunteers we worked beside, everyone at Community Crossroads, a center with 6 named programs in operation to help their community, and all of the men and women we met at our time spent in Goodwill, Meals on Wheels, and the many, many food banks we worked in. 1 Peter 4:8-11 features a single sentence that I really saw this week. Like good stewards of the manifold grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. On Monday night, we participated in a program called Room at the Inn, where the church brought in several men, and they just gave them a place for the night, a warm meal, some movies if they wanted, and some books. One individual, I like to call Preacher Man, was very enthusiastic about 2 things, spreading the word and video games. He told me, "You're a very good orator. You are a gifted speaker, just like me." Preacher Man was constantly using his gifts to spread the very word I think he needed to hear himself. See, Preacher Man ran away from his problems. As an adult, he was living with his parents. However, he crashed his work truck, and the shame drove him to not want to return to them. He was always repeating that he knew his parents loved him. Words were the only thing that Preacher Man had, and he chose to use his own to encourage others, to spread the love and joy of God. The constantly smiling man showed me God in each of his amazing, on-the-spot prayers he did for those around him. He made me understand the importance a few words can have on someone. Seeing new gifts wasn't limited to a me seeing them sort of deal. One woman, Dory, was very excited to encourage a gift she saw within me. Dory worked for the Community Crossroads, and she was the only paid employee. And she kept the entire operation running. She explained to me that her job as a social worker was to keep track of their clients and to keep their volunteers happy. Close to 80 volunteers a day depended on her for their coffee, snacks, and the details of their job for that shift. Dory was very excited by my questions and additions to the tour that she gave us. I explained to her that I had once expressed an interest in counseling, but Papa Don informed me that sitting in a room and only talking to one person at a time wasn't something I'd be too enthusiastic about. And he was absolutely right. I couldn't see myself only being able to listen to clients. Sure, I'm willing to, but I'd want to get more involved to try and help them get back on their feet. When I told Dory this, she laughed a little and told me straight up, "Honey, let me introduce you to your dream job." I was able to tour the Crossroads in greater detail. I learned the ins and outs and about what made the whole thing tick. She explained the difference in counseling and social work, which was the micro and macro clientele. Counselors are based on the micro level, doing one-on-one sessions, whereas the social workers are expanded over large groups. Without even having to say anything, Dory knew I was one for addressing the public, and even said there tended to be a lot of speeches involved in her work. Some of the tasks seemed a little iffy to me at times, but Dory was as happy as can be that I showed even the smallest speck of interest, which made having to hear all about the paperwork side of things worth it. I now know that there are so many incredible ways to help people, and it isn't limited to counseling. Before this trip, and especially before Dory, I thought I was stuck to volunteering at pre-existing organizations. But I have now discovered that one idea can change the lives of thousands, as long as I am willing to act on it. I feel this oration would be lacking if I didn't discuss the ways I saw our team use their God-given gifts this week. Each and every one of the kids were simply phenomenal. I've done countless activities and gone on countless trips with each and every one of them, but these 5 days put each person in a new light for me. Madison, your leadership skills and keeping us on track were on point. Mercedes? Dang, girl, she can sing. Josh, Josh, you kept our group light and laughing at all times, no matter the situation. Jordan, I love the discussions we had and how you constantly supported those around you. Connor, your random jokes made me laugh, even when we were working outside in the boiling heat. Ben, you seem to be the generator of quotes this week. Whatever you said stuck, and it made some lasting memories for each of us. Corianne, you never seemed afraid to go crazy, go stupid. And it made this week that much more fun. And last but not least, my baby sister, Mandy. You helped me keep a level head when things got too much for me. And you've always been a calming force for those who need it. Each sponsor contributed as well. It's difficult to manage 9 kids for an entire week, but they were willing to, and they pulled it off without going too insane. Finally, all of y'all, our literal families, as well as our church families. George and Tracy Shear were my prayer partners, and their goodie bag, as well as the letters, were a welcome surprise that made my days more enjoyable. Each time we were referred to as Grace Prez by the organizations we volunteered with, I was reminded of y'all. I was reminded that this wasn't just a vacation or a school trip, but that I was showing the people in Fort Worth how we spread God's love here at Grace. Thank you all for making this a trip to remember.
Well, we had the amazing speech by Jolie, and now I feel like I'm not very sure about mine. So sorry, I guess. When we were told about giving a message, at first I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, whatever. Not really sure if I actually wanted to give one, which I'm still not that sure. But here I go. On the first day, we set out on our van ride and had some Taco Bell. Later, when we got to the youth room of the church we were staying at, the sponsors asked us if we noticed the woman who was talking to them, and introduced our first challenge of the week. Those of us who did notice her, she had her back to us. The sponsors told us that she was on the verge of being homeless and that she was only able to stay afloat because of Social Security. Also that her teeth were broken, so broken that she was looking forward to having them pulled. Next day, the challenge was actually clarified. we are challenged to notice the people who you don't notice as much. Gotta flip my page. And later we actually got to talk to some of those people and eat with them, as Jolie said, with the meal at the end, night at the end. The scripture we were told to focus on talked about serving with our God-given gifts. And I felt like I kind of lived out part of that. Because on Tuesday, we served at Goodwill, and I had a deaf person in my group. And I was the only one who was actually able to communicate with him, since I was the only one who knew ASL in our group. I feel like I helped him, and maybe even the other two in the group, because I taught them some phrases too, so that they could try and make him feel more included. After that, for the last few days, it was pretty much a whole ton of food pantries. Did Meals on Wheels and Community Crossroads on Wednesdays, along with being moved to the gym. At first, the move was kind of sad, but we made the best of it and played choo-choo. Then on Thursday, we served at another food pantry that had a lot of rotten food we had to sort through, and later got cleaned up to serve for a family-style dinner worship that a church did every week for the less fortunate. On Friday, we sorted school supplies along with uniforms, then ate at an amazing place called The Taste Project, where you pay what you can, and ended the day at Six Flags. On Saturday, before we headed straight for home, we handed out leftover bagged lunches. In all, we did a lot of God's work, and I hope we can continue even after this week.
Hello! If you don't know me, I'm Corey, and this was my first mission trip. Now, everyone understands the excitement of being on a trip like this for the first time. You're finally away from the parents, finally one of the big kids. And yes, all this joy was true for me. I actually got up early on the day we were leaving. And if you've been camping with me, you'll understand how hard it is for me to wake up. Now, I was expecting to have fun on this trip with the youth group. I'm sure you noticed how crazy we can be, but what I truly didn't expect was how much the main scripture was going to affect me. I mean, when I first read it, it seemed so simple. Show hospitality without complaint? Pfft, I do that all the time. I say thank you, I do my chores, I give birthday presents. I'm so hospitable, right? Well, this week we met people who are really hospitable, people who spend their time and money to truly help. We went to Goodwill, where they gave jobs and support to anyone, including the disabled, to food banks who gave entire meals to families who couldn't afford it, to places that even gave diapers, who all welcomed us in and taught us all about them. A good example is the church we stayed at. They gave us a comfortable place to stay while we waited for the next day. Seeing all these people do all these amazing things with a bright smile makes me actually want to go and do more for our community. So, as I go into high school, I will really use my gifts to serve others.
If you don't know me, I don't really like coming up speaking to crowds, but I decided to do it anyways. So, since we are all friends and family, over the past week I realized that friendships are very important, and sometimes we take them for granted. Some of the people that I met said they asked their friends if they could borrow a couple bucks to pay their rent, but their friends said no. Others said they didn't want to ask their friends for money because they didn't want to look needy. We should cherish what we have for as long as we can, because we might not have it as long as we want. Some of them got kicked out of their homes because their rent went up. Others were born and raised homeless. Some of us don't consider what we have, we just want what we don't and can't have. when we get what we want, we don't consider how lucky we are to have this stuff until it's too late. The people that I met were just so happy, even when we gave them the littlest things that we could. So, I learned all this over the trip. We should go home and think about how lucky we are to have everything that we have and cherish it.